Hey everyone, welcome back to Brown Coat Nerd. Today we're going to be looking at the Smith & Wesson 5946. This is a 9mm double action only steel frame, 15+1, or if you get a new Metgar magazine, it's 17+1. LE trade-in from AIM Surplus. I got this back in early November of 2024. They are still available as I'm making this video, and it is early February of 2025. The regular listed price was $400. It's been on sale like all this time, every time since I've looked at it, for $330. So that's what I picked it up for. I've been kind of wanting to get one of these Smith & Wesson, I guess 5900 family of guns for a while. A double action only was not my first choice. I would have preferred to get the double action single action version. They do have one that does not have a slide mounted safety that most of them have. It's got a bobbed trigger, and that one's actually got a little decocker over here. That is my ideal model to get. However, at the time that I grabbed this, the double action only models were kind of the only ones that were floating around, and for a pretty good price at $330. Of course, as I was checking to see if these are still available, and they are, from AIM Surplus, they recently got in some of the ones that I wanted. But those are like $500, so a little bit more expensive. Oh well, whatever. I'm actually pretty happy with this. So real quick, kind of going over the history of these. If you're someone that likes to find a family of firearm and then kind of collect that specific firearm, holy cow, this is the perfect option for you. There are a ton of different models, a ton of different varieties of this gun. I'm going to go over kind of a real quick cliff notes of the history of this gun. There's other better videos out there that have more models to kind of show you to go along with. While we're on that topic, some resources I definitely need to point out if you're first getting into these guns. First of all, Lucky Gunner, while they don't have a great YouTube video on this family of guns, they've got a very short one. They have a must-have chart online that goes over all the different generations and what the different numbers in the models mean. And if you're getting into these firearms, that chart is an absolute must to, save that image onto your phone. So definitely go check out the Lucky Gunner chart that breaks down the models. For history, I found that 45 Alpha Charlie Papa has a really good video on YouTube going over the history of these guns, as well as HR Funk. And then if you want to go down some of the kind of different versions, see those side by side, Guns, Ammo, and Drones has a good video that you should definitely go check out. So cliff notes on the history. This model of gun started in the mid-50s as the M39. It was a single stack 9mm, and from what I understand too, it was the first American-made 9mm or 9mm that was single action, double action. Then in the late 70s, they came out with the M59, basically same gun, but now it's a double stack. That was the quote-unquote first gen. Second gen came out in the late 70s, lasted up through the late 80s, and then the third gen started in the late 80s and was produced up until, I believe, 2010. Originally, these were only available in 9mm. Starting with the second gen, they offered them in 40 Smith & Wesson, 10mm, and 45 ACP. So they did broaden the calibers that they came in. And this particular one is 9mm. I do believe that this was the first gun that Smith & Wesson offered in 40 Smith & Wesson. Not the first gun offered in 40 Smith & Wesson. That would go to Glock. And that is a very interesting story if you're curious about how Glock came out with a 40 Smith & Wesson before Smith & Wesson did. But yeah, so first gun Smith & Wesson offered in 40 Smith & Wesson. These were primarily aimed at the police, obviously, as this is a police trade-in. Most of them that you will see will be in the stainless steel finish that we see here. This was an upgrade, however, it seems to be by far the most popular option, but you will also find these in blued. And also hopping back to the generations, there kind of is a fourth generation. Most people group it into the third generation. That would be the 915 and 910 models, but those are more kind of value enhanced models. Replace some of the metal parts with plastic parts, just kind of cut down the cost on it. But wanted to mention that real quick. So yeah, aimed mostly at police. This was a very popular police gun for many years, and it kind of really was phased out by Glock. I believe it was Alpha Charlie Papa, 45 Alpha Charlie Papa. His video on YouTube, he pulled out an old catalog. It was from 1996, and it has the prices, a lot of the different Smith & Wessons, and I thought that was an awesome resource. So in 1996, this particular gun, the 5946 in stainless, was sold for $677, and with inflation today, this would have been a $1,353 gun, brand new. So me paying $330, I'm pretty cool with that, even if it's double action only. And you can see up here we kind of have this odd little cutout here, and that's where the safety would go. And if you're wondering if you can convert this to double action, single action, and just throw the safety in there, I don't really think so, because if you look at the ones with the safety, they do have a little bit of additional metal milled out here from the circle. Now I think you could probably convert these to double action, single actions. I just don't think you're going to have that cocker / safety there. So, let's see. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. Breaking down the numbers and the number system, like I said, the Lucky Gunner chart is an absolute must if you're going to get into these. So the first two numbers, it's either going to be a 39, a 59, or a 69. That will be a 9mm. If the first two numbers are 10 millimeter. First two numbers are 40, that will be a 40 Smith & Wesson. And if the first two numbers are 45, I bet you know where this is going. That will be in 45 ACP. So just kind of a little breakdown on the different calibers then. The last two numbers will depend on whether it's a stainless steel finish, a blued finish, an aluminum frame, or a steel frame, or single stack or double stack. So like I said, there is a huge variety of options out there if you like to kind of get into one specific gun and collect it. And this one is all steel, and it is a freaking brick. I mean, this thing it feels expensive from the weight. And of course, we are working with an empty gun here. This does have a magazine disconnect safety, as Smith & Wessons of this time are very popular for having, well, not popular, well known for having. It should be pointed out that that magazine disconnect, one, can be removed. It's kind of weird on this one. You remove the rear sight. You got two plungers back there. One of the plungers is the magazine disconnect. Some of these guns did leave the factory without that option. There were some agencies that specifically ordered these to not have that magazine disconnect feature. So if you're buying one of these used, don't just assume yours has a magazine disconnect. I would definitely recommend, obviously, making sure your gun is empty and then testing it out for yourself. Obviously, you always keep it pointed in a safe direction. Don't point it at anyone, yada yada. Definitely check that out, because regardless of what model it is, it may or may not have that magazine disconnect safety. Most likely it will, but there are some that do not have that. Another very interesting thing I found about this double action only is typically with a double action only, when you pull the trigger, the hammer goes down, you can pull the trigger again, and the hammer will go down. This is a double action only with single strike capability, which is really, really weird. As far as the trigger goes, it is rather heavy, but as I go past the wall there, I was getting a little carried away. I feel like it's still very controllable, and there's a very defined wall when you get there. So I took this out to the range, and I did fire 100 rounds in one range session. And the first couple of mags, I was actually really impressed with how not annoying the trigger was. I thought I was going to take it to the range and be like, I like the gun, but God, do I hate the trigger. It really was not that bad at all. I was surprised. But after the first couple mags, my finger was starting to get worn out. I also took out a other gun that I will be doing a review on soon, and shot 100 rounds of 45 ACP out through that as well. That one was a double action, single action, so I wasn't getting the work out of my finger that this guy was giving me. So yeah, first couple mags, really impressed with the accuracy as well, with it being double action only. For me, it was a pretty darn tight group. I was happy with that. I was kind of curious about how much that double action every time was going to throw off my aim, but it really didn't. Like I said, with this one, yeah, it's heavy, but you can kind of get there, take a little more time. It's not that bad. Would I still prefer to have a double action, single action trigger? Yes. But for the price that I paid, plus I just been really having the itch to get one of these for a while, so I was able to fill that. The double action trigger, I was hoping wouldn't be bad. I'm very impressed with how not bad it is. But of course, it will show its face after you've gone through a couple mags if you're trying to burn through 2 boxes of ammo. Towards the end of the day, my accuracy was definitely starting to open up. And my finger was getting rather sore. So not the best gun to take to the range all day. But I think it's, perfectly suitable just for fun little range plinker toy, or, something to keep for home defense, self-defense. Carry gun, I prefer something a little bit smaller, definitely lighter. But it would fulfill that role as long as you're okay with putting up with that. The trigger, I did an average of 5 pulls with my trigger gauge. The lineman trigger gauge here. 5 pulls, I got an average of 9 pounds, 7.8 ounces. So as you can see, it is not a light trigger by any means. But at the same time, it's smooth enough. It did not actually feel like it was that heavy of a trigger. So, yeah. Basically, if you're looking into getting into these guns, this is a good kind of entry level to figure out whether or not you really want to start getting more. It's a couple $100 typically less than the double action, single actions. So that is nice. However, if you're wanting to get something to go to the range and shoot for an extended period of time, this one kind of sucks. Because you start out and you're like, yeah, this is a great gun. I'm accurate. This is fun. And then you're like, damn, my finger is just wore out. So be wary of that. But other than that, I am really happy with this purchase. This series of guns is really popular in tons of different 1990s action movies and TV shows. It is rather iconic. Didn't get the model that I was really wanting, but I can live with that. And the overall condition of this gun, I think, is in pretty good shape. We do have, some nicks and dings on that grip. And then the finish, you can see is not perfect. One thing I'm always nervous about getting a gun that's kind of in a satin silver finish is sometimes when they're worn or scratched, they look like crap. Whereas a blued gun, I think when it wears, it typically, to me, enhances the look. Getting all the sharp edges worn where it's just showing bare metal. I like that look. Silver guns, once they start to get worn, to me, they kind of look ugly. This one has worn it well, I do believe. And you will know some of the roll marks are different throughout the series. And even within this series, they kind of change some of the features. Like I know some of the earlier ones will have a silver trigger rather than the black one. But yeah, I just wanted to bring this to you guys. It's kind of a fun throwback gun if you're really into cinema from the 90s. That was an era I grew up, so this is very recognizable. It is a beast of a gun, just holding this guy, at least the all-steel ones. Very, very heavy, and it's actually pretty darn comfortable, too. Which, yeah, I cannot complain about. But overall, I'm very happy with this gun. Unfortunately, I like it enough where it's probably going to throw me down that rabbit hole. I'm sure eventually I will be getting some more of the 59 series handguns. I wouldn't mind getting one of the little compact single stack alloy frames. I still would love to get that double action, single action, the one without the safety, because I hate frame mounted safeties for the most part. They get my way. And that one's got the little kind of SIG 220-esque decocker on it. But overall, for the price, I cannot complain about this. This is a very nice, feels like a very rugged gun. And in that 100 rounds, if I didn't mention, I had no issues whatsoever. I was very happy with the accuracy. Even once my finger started to kind of wear on me and the grouping opened up, it was still a pretty good and decent grouping. So overall, I do recommend this gun. It's a fun one. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. AIM still has these in stock. I feel like these double action onlys are kind of like the last ones to go whenever they get a batch of these in. So I imagine they'll probably be around in a while. And typically whenever you see the double action onlys, they're always going to be discounted more than the other ones. So, yeah. Was it worth saving the money? I think so, especially not having handled or fired these guns before. If I were to get a full-size double action, single action, I probably would end up getting rid of this. At that point, there's no reason to have the double action only. But at the same time, for right now, this one, being double action only, especially being much cheaper, it's kind of scratching my itch for the Smith & Wesson 59 series. So now I can be patient. Now I can wait till I see the specific model that I want instead of just like buying random models. So yeah, that is my review on the Smith & Wesson 5946 from AIM Surplus. Thank you guys for watching. If you did like this, please consider liking and subscribing. And don't forget to go check me out on Instagram as well as Rumble. All right, stay safe, stay shiny.